All right, good morning. Thank you for coming to our webinar on data cleanup. Today, we're going to go over some of the routines that you can go through in Student Manager to make things run a little faster, remove duplicates, and just keep your data running at the most efficient possible. So, um, things that we will talk about: combining records, removing duplicates, cleaning up orphaned and duplicate records, course titles and descriptions, um, purging wait lists, room use records, cleaning up broken links, doing an address cleanup, and then removing and deleted records. Um, because there's a lot to cover and not a lot of time, mostly we're just going to go over this. If you need me to go into Student Manager and show you how to do this, I can do that. I will also email you the PowerPoint so that you have that to refer back to after the webinar. All right, so first, combining records. So we have a feature so that will help you combine duplicate records. We know that no matter what you do, um, you're going to get some duplicates. Either someone forgot their password and they're impatient, so they just use a different email address, or they didn't remember, that they had an account, and they start another email address, or they change their name and the records aren't finding them. So, many reasons that you would have duplicate records, and you can combine any duplicates in the names, firms, location, or faculty records. Um, a note about combining names, um, in your student manager preferences on the org defaults, the open text, um, with all the exclamation points for the Social Security ID format, to successfully combine records. Again, you can get to that by edit preferences and then org defaults. Um, Using the formats with the parentheses, when copying the ID, um, because that's one of the methods that you can use for combining, causes um, problems. So we do recommend using the open text, with all the exclamation point format. So when you are combining names, you want to determine the good or the record versus the bad record. So the good record is going to be the one that has the most information that you want to use. Um, and the bad record is the one that may have registrations or payments associated with it, but maybe the good one is the newer one. It's got the more up-to-date information. So, method one of combining would be to take the good record, copy the ID number, and then go to the bad record and paste the ID into the ID number field. It will, Student Manager will ask you, if you are sure you want to do this. Warning will say Social Security number change, just as a remnant, because we originally we used Social Security numbers and we try to avoid that now. So if you get the warning, when you get the warning, you want to say yes. Um, and then if you don't use the open text option, this is kind of what happens. It adds the dashes in there twice, and then you don't get the whole number in, which is why we recommend not using that format. You will be notified that the ID number or belongs to somebody else. And on this pop-up, you will select combine names, and then you click continue. When it tells you, it will move all the registrations and interest code to the new record. So what happens in that process? Student manager takes the good and the bad records and it compares to see what data exists on both records. If both records have information, say in the phone number, but they're different, it's going to use the information on the good record. If there is a spot on the good record that isn't filled in, but it is filled in on the quote unquote bad record, it will move that, it will fill that information in. So it's going to endeavor to give you the most incomplete information between the two records. It will move all registration and payments and interest codes from the bad record to the good record so that you have, again, the most complete picture for that person. And then the bad record is marked for deletion. So in the case of duplicate record registrations, for some reason, both of the different IDs were enrolled in the same class. It will not let you combine those until you have moved the duplicate registration and associated payments. So just know that you had someone who like signed up for their friend on a separate duplicate name record, you want to get that associated to the proper person so that you can clean up those duplicates. Any questions so far? Cool. So again, not just names, but you can combine faculty, firm, and location records. The process is pretty much the same. You will decide which one is the good one that you want to keep and the one that you wanted, the bad one that you want to delete. Then you would copy and paste the ID from the good one to the bad one, and that will indicate to the system that you want to combine those records. So each of those different fields has kind of a unique ID number. For the firm ID, or for the firm, it's the firm ID. For the locations, it's the internal ID, room record internal ID, sorry. And then for faculty, it's the faculty ID. If you are using ACEware Storm module, that faculty ID is also the ID number that the faculty will use to log in to their online account. So not having duplicates is pretty important in that respect as well. So these are just continuations of steps, just kind of showing you what those successive steps looks like for instructors, firms, and locations. You will have to confirm the combine. Are you always going to ask, are you sure you want to do this? So clicking yes will combine the records. Clicking no, if you realize in the process that's not what you actually want to do, click no, and it will bail you out of that combine process. We also have the combine duplicate name tool in the tools menu under data cleanup. This is going to search all of your records based on the criteria that you select. And then it's going to show you all of the possibilities that the system thinks may be a duplication. So you do have choices here, first name, last name, address, and zip code, um, email, address, and then user-defined searches if there is something specific, like if you have a license number that you get from your students for a certification or a license program, that might be helpful as well. You can see down at the bottom, um, when you are running this, you have an export to Excel and a preview combine. So exporting to Excel sometimes uh, would, it's not sometimes helpful. It can usually be helpful so that you can look at that data because the information is smaller and you can't see it all. And our sort and filter tools are not as good as you would have with Excel. So, just some ways so that you can manipulate the data and get as many of those names combined as possible. So, if you click export to Excel, it's not going to combine anything. It's just going to export that for you. And then you can close out so that you can do other things while you're going through that information. And then you could come back and run it if you would want. A report would just print out all of that information. And then again, the preview combine is going to show you that info and let you select and deselect folks. I'm pretty sure that shows you on the next one. No, it's not showing us that. Sorry. But on, like, if you have someone like, let's say you have a gentleman named John Smith, and he has a son, John Smith Jr., and you're doing the duplication. And because they live in the same house, it's flagging them as a duplicate every time you run the combined names. You can go into their records and check this ignore name in the mass combine so that it does not show you their name every time. That's a pretty common occurrence, especially for, juniors or the thirds or so. We do have tools so that you don't have to ignore them manually every single time. And then again, report, it's going to show you, the names of the duplicates and the information so you can kind of look at the records yourself, or with the Excel, it's going to export first name, last name, email address, phone number, their mailing address. So it's going to give you a lot of information so you can determine if those people are actually the same people or if they're different people. So with the mass combine, again, tools, data cleanup, combine names, and you're going to pick the criteria that you want to do the combine on, whether it's the name, first name, last name, address, zip code, or it's the email address, or if you're looking for something else, you can again use the preview combine. It's going to ask you if you have made a backup. We always recommend doing a backup before you do any kind of cleanup. And then it will show you the potential duplicates, which will look a lot like this. You're going to see their name, email address, zip code. If you scroll over, it'll show you ID and some other information. Part of the reason that last update is shown in that is so that you can see which one was newer. Usually the newer one is going to be the more accurate one. So that's why that's included, so you can kind of determine from there. And we give you their contact information so you can shoot them an email or give them a call, or so you can make sure that it's the right information. after you've checked the boxes for the combine, you have to select, let me see if I can, sorry. So you can see that both of these are checked here on the include um, column. And as long as those are both checked, when you go to this step, it's going to say, are you sure you would like to combine these? And you can say yes or no. And then anything that was selected, it will. And if you say yes, it will combine them. Any questions? Nope. Okay, cool. I know I am moving pretty quickly. I am not going to go through the firm's cleanup tool. It I'm just going to really quickly click through it. It's really similar to the names tool. Um, it's going to look for um, like the company name, and then it's going to give you the same options. And then we have this one, data cleanup. This is in the same menu if you are all familiar with the catch-all tools, data cleanup. You have the registration, name IDs, cost center. There's several different. You can do all of those individually if you would like. Running the catch-all runs them all at the same time, which is why we normally just tell you to run that one. The processes, though, is similar tools, data cleanup, then you're going to pick which which kind of information you want to clean up, or you can run the catch-all and then it will ask you if you run a backup and if you're sure you want to do that. And you tell it you do. And then at the end, it will tell you all of the things that it found that apply to that area. This is pretty close. I think this is a catch-all, all of the things that it ran. So cleaning up interest codes. So I'm sure that you guys have a lot of interest codes. Sometimes you don't use them anymore. You stop using them because you've stopped offering that kind of class, or it's been combined with a different um, code. So instead of like arts and crafts, it's arts and crafts, or we have some schools that are like kids programs where they do like ceramics and painting, and they've just combined all of that into art. So cleaning up the interest codes, um, you would go tools, data cleanup, name interest code. It's going to click OK, and then it's going to remove any interest codes that aren't being used, or anything that's got an orphan. So you can see here, they did the cleanup, and this particular run found two orphan or duplicate interest codes. So it's going to look and make sure that like someone doesn't have uh, like the computer interest code multiple times on there. And this especially will happen when you do like a name combine. It moves all those interest codes over, and sometimes it doesn't realize or it doesn't catch that they're had the same interest codes on there. Also, you can go into the code area cleanup. It allows you to deactivate or merge codes. So again, in that, if you're combining two, you can say, okay, well, this one and this one, we need to put them together. So you would go tools, data cleanup, code area. You would select the appropriate code area and then click on the appropriate code list. You can change the active status, or you can change the name. of the code area if you would like to, also in this place. Um, and then, you know, this one that was just changing the name, but they've replaced it, and it will replace the code everywhere that it is. So if it has been used historically on courses, it's gonna change it everywhere. Um, Again, the code status changing from active to not active down here under the replace. And then active codes are displayed like in drop-down lists where inactive codes are not. You can still have the non-active codes associated with records. It's just not going to give you the option to add those to records going forward. And then here's the cleaning, merging multiples. So, here's one where they got two different, um, like elementary and secondary education, and they're just combining them all into education. You're going to go to code area. You select the two different codes using the control key on your keyboard. And then in the value description field, you would put in what you want to call it, the new combined, and then click the replace. So if you are merging two codes, one that both exist, and you're merging them both into together into one, then you want to um, click it last. So in the case of like the painting and ceramics and art, and they want it all just to be an art, then they would click, painting, ceramics, and then art, so that when it did the combine, it would be all under the art interest code. Am I making sense? Okay. This is going through course titles. So the course cleanup options, again, almost all of these you're going to find under the tools menu. Data cleanup, and this one is for locations, uh, but location, course names, and fees, and you can select between the different types. And then, so you can click on a value to change it. So, or you can search by keyword. And then again, if you change that value, it's going to change it for all of the associated records. So it will, even for your historical records, it will change that everywhere that it sees that value. Purging old wait lists will be under the module. Module courses, mass, update, change, delete, archive. I'm hoping that you have used at least the courses or the names, or no, courses is usually because that's where you're gonna uh, deactivate or archive courses that you don't need to have um, access to immediately. Choosing going into this courses, mass change, delete, archive will let you delete also room use records and purge waitlists as part of the selections. And then you can set begin and end date, or class courses that begin with, and you can do that by year or year and term, whichever. works best for you. If you click preview, it's gonna show you a list. Now, I should mention here that for courses, we know that everyone's program is a little bit different, but in your active course search, we recommend having 2, maybe 3 years in your active search. Because as long as it's not archived, you'll still be able to report on it, and just deactivate. It's just going to make your search screen move faster if it doesn't have 10 years of records to search through. You can, you we generally recommend that you leave them in the inactive but not archived for whatever your reporting look back period is. For some folks, that's 5 years. We do have a couple of programs where that's 10 years. So, that is kind of dependent on if you're doing like state reporting or any other kind of reporting and what that look back period is. And then if there's like specific courses that you do not, when you look at the preview, that you don't want to deactivate or archive, you would just uncheck them. If it's something that you aren't having very often, maybe you do it like every 3 years or something, like a trip of some kind, then maybe that would be something that you would leave, just to make it easier for cloning the course. And then when you click OK, it's going to delete the room use records and make the changes that you've selected at the top of the course mass change delete update, as far as like marking it inactive and archiving it and locking the course. We recommend locking the course almost immediately after the class ends, so that people can't be enrolled to it, or none of the data can be changed easily. I apologize. I had to call. So in addition to marking it inactive, archiving it if that's what you need to do, you can also purge the wait list, delete the room use records. Cleaning up broken firm links, that's again in the tools, data cleanup, broken firms. It's going to just make sure that, like, if there's firms that are not associated with folks, or someone that should be associated, but isn't, it's going to try to fix those broken links, or get those removed. So always, again, it's going to ask you if you've done backup. Always recommends that. We're going to say okay, if and hopefully you have actually done the backup. Then it's going to ask you where it needs to look for broken firm links. So we can look at reports, the firm names only, the firm with the address, or you can replace the ID with 888. That's just going to associate the name record with the firm. So it gives you some choices there. We recommend the first three in their appropriate use case. If you have reports that are not pulling firms correctly, you may want to run this just to make sure that it's associating the correct records. Sometimes duplicate firms, or update finding a firm based on the address. We do have seen where folks just never tell somebody that the firm name has changed, and but they've been at the same address for 20 years. So sometimes that has been the way to find the form. Address cleanup tool. This is just going to update standardized abbreviations. It is not going to add records. It does not allow you to do like a mass update of everyone's addresses. Unfortunately, if like somebody moves, um, individual moves, you can't just build up a list and then have all of those changed at one time. You have to do it manually. Um, the other, like if you affirm changes its address and you want, it will ask you if you want to change if folks have the firm's address associated with their name record when you change the firm's address. So here are just some of the examples of the standardization that will happen when you do the address cleanup. That is all based on the post office database. We don't, it's just saving characters for you, really. So that is something up to you. For um, removing deleted records, I'm sure if you do a lot of the maintenance in your student manager, you probably run this once or twice or probably 100 times. Pack and reindex. Um, so you can only run the pack and reindex if you're the only one in the system. So you can check the users under tool show users. Once everyone else is logged out, you can tools, database, admin, and then pack and reindex. Normally, we just have you run a reindex. That just has the system look at the tables and the information there. To get rid of the deleted records, you have to actually select the pack checkbox. And then once you've done that and click run, it will purge all of your deleted records. You do have to be the student manager administrator to do the pack and reindex. If you are on the sequel version of Student Manager, you don't have to worry about deleting, like, it will automatically delete those records that are marked for deletion. The bigger worry there is, are you sure you wanted to delete that? Because recovering it, if you didn't want to delete it, much easier in the VFP not sequel version. And then if you do not know what version you're running, you can go to the help menu and then about student manager, and it does tell you your version number, which it also tells you in the upper left corner. But it does tell you as far as like your database type. Oops. This one is VFP. If you were a SQL, it would say SQL there. And then we're kind of at the end. Is there any questions? I know I ran through things really quickly. Again, I am going to send out the PowerPoint. It's got step-by-step instructions and kind of where to find everything. Okay, well, if you guys don't have any questions, I did record this, so I will get the recording up as quickly as I can, and I will shoot the PowerPoint out to you here in a few minutes. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming.